I'd like to call to order the monthly meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 5 o'clock. We've returned to regular in-person meetings, so this is a regular meeting, not a special called meeting. And with that, I'll ask Ms. Poe to call the roll.
Member Hale?
Here.
Member Cuban?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell?
Here.
We have a quorum. We're ready to proceed. We're going to do a little different than we have. We're going to start off with the department reports first. So the first up is Telecommunications. Adam?
Hello. Good afternoon, Chairman, member of the board. The standard report for telecom starts on page 15 of your board package. Everything looks pretty good. Robocall's down. So if there's not any questions on that report, I was going to give a brief update on fiber to the home.
John?
Question. Adam, I have one question. I was looking over these numbers. The pay-per-view and paid VOD seem to be, they're going to be like half of what was budgeted. Have we downloaded those or downgraded those numbers for next year's budget in terms of what we expect?
I don't think so. I'd say we probably left them pretty flat.
Okay.
But this year was kind of an off year with COVID and
Right.
some of the production, some of the movies not coming out. So
Okay.
we'll monitor it this year and then readjust then.
All right.
I mean,
Okay.
it had that little bit of a downtrend.
That's true. There weren't many movies released to go out on the. Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? That part? No.
So just an update on fiber to the home. We're finishing up underground and doing the splicing in Shattered Ferry, hoping to have it wrapped up by the end of next week. We're finished up the underground in Node 14. That's the Ridgeview area. Hoping to get in there and start doing some testing. Node 34 Willowcrest out on Lowell Road. We're doing construction work there now. On the engineering side, we are the Rainbow Group has gave us our backbone design plan. We looked at it. Everything looks pretty good. And yesterday they gave us our first official design for Franklin Heights area over Lions Drive area. We got a meeting this week to go over their design, make sure everything's looking good, and then that will be one of the next areas we move forward in the new budget year. As far as staff, we're doing testing. We have 8 customers up today. We hope to get 7 more installed next week and keep, testing and making sure everything's working end to end. So everything's going pretty smooth. The only thing that I'll mention is equipment availability. We had a meeting last week with one of our vendors, and they were saying, yeah, we're more 6 to 8 weeks. And then they called us last Friday and says, we're looking at more 26 weeks. So we're trying to make sure that, as we roll this out, that we have the product that we need. So we're trying to make some provisions and get some stuff on order and trying to make sure we can get the equipment.
Assuming 26 weeks is what's that mean in terms of?
It really depends. I mean, as long as we scale this and, as far as rolling the product out, we can probably withstand some of that. But if we do, a large scale deployment, we'll probably run out of equipment pretty fast.
Well, Vint was telling me the other day, some stuff's going up as much as 600%. What are we seeing the prices for this? Not only is it delays, is the price going up also?
Some of it's going up a little bit, but nothing crazy. A lot of that, I guess, is a couple of months ago we awarded a bid for a lot of the fiber equipment, so we're pretty good on those prices. It's more availability of that stuff.
And that's what we're seeing. I think we got our transformer bid back today, and you're talking about, I think it was 40 some weeks even. I mean, you're talking about significant. Was that it, Travis? 40 some weeks?
Yes, honestly,
okay. Yeah.
40.
So we're starting to see that, not only price increases, but these significant lead times as well.
But I think, we probably have enough equipment, depending on how we roll it out, for about 5% of our service area, so it's not bad. But I just want to make you aware because, as of last week, we were looking at 4 to 6 weeks, and now we're looking at, 26 weeks, and it's like, so just trying to make sure we contact the vendor or manufacturer and see what the lead time is, so if we need to try to purchase it, quickly to make sure we have it here in 2 or 3 months, we need to start working on it as well.
Is it a labor problem or material problem, or both?
Probably both. We had some plastics issue that ice storm in Texas created some fiber optic problems with plastics for some of these enclosures. You still have the chipset issue where all that was shut down because of COVID, just like the Ford trucks and things of that nature. So.
Is any of this customer related equipment, anything that has to be in the house?
Yes, that's the bulk of it. just like our Wi-Fi product. They were able to give us a partial shipment, but we have, I think we have 1,000 units on order, and we've got 50 of them. So, yeah, it's challenging. And those were on order. I guess we probably put those in October of last year.
But some of those, can they be overcome by the customer?
Yes.
If they.
Yeah, it's
choose
just,
to.
you know, when
Yeah.
we get with this product, you know, we want to make sure that they have equipment that
Yeah.
can achieve the speed we're offering. And so it's one of those things that we can look at saying, well, we will guarantee the gig at the copper interface on the back of the unit and maybe not the Wi-Fi portion because the Wi-Fi 6 equipment is in such a demand right now. So we're working on it. We're doing the best we can. And, you know, next month I'll come back and kind of give you an update if there's any good news or bad news. Sorry.
Any other questions for Adam? Okay.
Thank you.
We don't have any, David, unrelated party, any agreed upon update on any related party transactions?
Not to my knowledge, unless there's one that I'm not aware of.
Okay. Next, customer service.
Good evening, board members. I'm happy to be back in person with everyone. The regular customer service reports are in your board packet. We had 279 new accounts, and we had a total of 9,845 customer contacts for the month of May. And then to give you a summary of kind of where we're at with payment plans, because that's been a big thing for service. We're down to a total past due of 1.9 million from a high at over 3 when we were at the height of this. And we had about 4,900 payment plans as well at the height of this. And we're down to 1,040 payment arrangements with our customers at this time. We've resumed our normal 2-bill cycle, 2-bill disconnect every month, and we're averaging less than 200 per cycle for those, which is actually below pre-COVID numbers. So that's a really good indicator that people are paying as well. Be happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Has all the assistance programs pretty much run out, or are there still anything available for customers, or?
To our knowledge, there are still funds available. Customers can still apply, and we're also working with some agencies to see if there is federal funding that maybe the city and the county has available to apply to past due balances that the utility can submit, potentially. That's something that we're looking into. Is that correct? I think, David? Yeah. So there is still money out there. I would still encourage people to keep applying. We're getting payments every week from the Kentucky Housing Healthy at Home Fund. They do still have a backslot of applications they're going through. However, to our knowledge, you can still apply.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, just real quick, Hans, I should have asked Adam, what about the emergency broadband? Where are we at on, I should have asked him under his report. We've submitted our application.
Yes, sir. We've been approved to, we were approved to participate on June the 10th. And we're listed as a provider on their website. Our name's misspelled. It's spelled like the German version, but that's all right. We have a SAM account that's already been set up. The CSRs are registering in the representative accountability database. I know Harvey. I've been working with, seen some stuff on the Q&A questions for our customers, some customer information. That's going to go out. IT is working on the billing and the prorating stuff for the SIBs part of it, and then what we do need are what are called SAC codes, study area codes, and these are separate codes. They're codes that the USAC uses in the Lifeline program, but they're separate. They're a whole separate set of codes for the EBB program. So that's kind of the next step to get those codes. So
When
that's
will it
where-
start to actually roll out, like Kathy Lindsay's part, as far as advertising? When will we actually begin telling customers, we've got this, you want to apply, you need to go get your eligibility checked and all that?
Well, that's a good question. As soon as possible. Very good question.
Will it occur before our next board meeting?
I would hope so.
Okay.
I would hope so. Once I just got an email back from the from one of the folks this afternoon saying that they're waiting to get this new set of codes. So that's where it stands.
Okay.
Where it stands now.
Okay.
But
I'm sorry to have caught y'all there.
But if anybody else has, I know there's
Any
some other
questions?
folks that are working on that. So if anybody else, Kathy's group or IT wants to chime in, that's just sort of a summary there.
Any questions, anybody?
I'll chime in when I get up there.
Oh, sure.
Okay, electric?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members. As you turn to page 23, you'll see our SAIDI numbers for the month of May is in 24.568. On page 24, you're going to see our pie chart, which shows the certain percentages for each type of outages we had for the month of May. Page 25 has the more specific numbers listed for those percentages. We had a total of 35 outages for the month of May, and then on page 25, you'll see our top 10 outage spots, and we had a total of 1,155 customers affected for the month of May. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody, any questions? John?
Does this include the planned outage, like South Frankfort
Yes, sir.
in May? That includes
Yes.
those plans, that's why the number's a little higher than it was.
Yes. Well, yes, and if you look down on it, says utility maintenance and repairs.
Yeah, equipment change, yeah.
It's other causes down there, so.
Okay,
So yes, sir.
okay, thank you.
37% of our problem is squirrels and birds.
Yes, it is. Injuries, just squirrels and birds.
Travis?
If I could just piggyback on the electric report to do an AMI update. We're still kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern due to the chip shortage that was brought up earlier. We're trying to watch the manufacturing delays to make sure we time the project right, that once we get started, we don't all of a sudden run dry. So I would expect, or at least hope, by the next board meeting, we'll have a good firm update of when we're going to start in earnest. But at the moment, in a little bit of a holding pattern due to the chip shortage. Any AMI questions?
About a holding pattern, it's kind of an unfair question, but it's kind of the same one as Hans and Adam. What does a holding pattern mean?
Okay, so we have built our test system, we've built our pilot system. Those are in service, they're working, we're monitoring, making improvements where we can with what we have. The next logical step in the project will be full system deployment. We haven't pulled that trigger yet just because we want to make sure once we go, we don't kind of false start. So we do have meters out there, the system is working well, we just want to watch the manufacturing delays.
And if something goes wrong, which it won't,
Of course.
but if something would go wrong, then our current system is still fully in place, right? If we had to keep reading manually or doing whatever.
Correct. We haven't, I would assume that would always be the case. Yeah, I don't think there's a stage where we would, even if we hit a delay and we've got part of the system built, they can run in parallel for some time if it comes to that, if that happens to be the case. So I think there's good contingency plans if we do run into that situation, which I don't expect, but we'll still be able to read the meters. Either way.
Any questions for Travis? Okay, thank you. SIPA?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and the board, for the month of April, which was our last SIPA invoice that we made $72,276. So for the year, that brings our total to $552,000. So we're having a good year so far. And if you look at your report over on page 29, you will see the complete history of SIPA. So this year we're already at 552. Last year for the entire calendar year, we were at 670. So we're doing pretty well so far.
From your standpoint, from SIPA, is it pretty much running maximum that whatever we're currently getting out is about where we're going to be? There's not a...
Yeah, the only difference would be if there's market fluctuations. If you look on page 28, if you look at February, that is that Texas market fluctuation where we had power to sell. And so we were on the good end of that. So that's the big jump we've had this year. That was, for instance, in February, that was $342,000 we made in 1 month because of the energy markets were so high. So.
Any questions? Okay. Next is, we got Kimi.
Yes, board and chair. For the KYMEA, they have the regular board meeting and many committee meeting also. One thing I like to report to the board is we finally received the final increase from KULT for transmission increase, and it's almost 27%.
You might want to, Gary, just for people watching, explain, because I think most people understand we're buying power from Kimi, and explain why we're still dealing with KU.
And we are purchase most our resource power from MISO, which is north of the Ohio River, many of the state, those, the large system we can purchase from. But we are embedded inside the KULG system. There's definitely efficiency for the reliability. We are all stay together. So we are relying on KULG transmission to deliver those energy to us. So we are considered called what do you call it? Our system network? No, network service.
Network transmission service.
Service means they have to guarantee provide all the 100% we needed, but same time we pay our portion of it. So every year they just like all their costs, their portion of the transmission costs. They review their costs based on the FERC and their tariff. They will pass those costs to their retail customer. Also, they are all wholesale customer. Also, it's the same rate, by the way. So those costs increase. They've been already tell all us, right? Next 10-year average, they're looking for 10% increase every year.
And that's
but
not
this
the,
year,
and that's not the power we're buying from Kimi. That's KU charging us to bring that power in to our system.
exactly, just pass through that,
Right.
deliver to us. It's not a significant big portion of our QMEA cost yet, but that portion increase is quite a bit when you have a 1 year talk about nearly 27%.
And no matter where we'd be buying power from, we'd have that cost of bringing it in on that line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those wouldn't change no matter, except we have our local generation. That's
Right.
which is not an option
Right.
currently, particularly those conventional generation. But except we want to stand alone, complete separate. As I understand, the KU will charge the transmission based on our peak, based on their peak, whenever our load will be based on their peak. So there was case before happened like in Paducah, they have their own generation. In that way, you almost, in our mind, we can manage our own load, reduce those peak
Right.
in their KU system, right? So then you have a less charge. But based on the FERC order before FERC can, KU can add it back. Even you have own generation, except you want to stand out completely alone, don't use that system at all, then they will charge you back. So in that way, even you have a local generation, except you can kind of your load completely, then you're still going to pay your portion, no matter you have a generation or not. Yes.
Any questions for Gary? John?
Gary, this 27% increase, how does that tie in with the case that's currently, that we're involved with in terms of FERC, in terms of the depancaking issue? And, we were supposed to have some sort of relief for a certain amount of time, and I think our feeling is KU's kind of jumped the gun on that, and they're going above what the depancake rate should be. Is that still an issue? Is that part of this?
Depancake, we still have a case in front of FERC. Even FERC already have a 2 order. There's a rehearing case, and also there's a case in front of the appeal court in DC.
Okay.
Those are still going. But that's a kind of address the issue between like 7, 8 years or long before when
Right.
KU withdraw from MISO.
Right.
The agreement is there's no double charge transmission. That's what we call a depancake.
Okay.
But KULG filed in front of FERC last year said they want to start to charge that.
So so what you're just talking about here is a separate issue from.
It's a separate
the
issue.
depancake.
Those
Okay.
is who gonna pay the double cost, that
Right.
portion.
Right.
But now we talk about the inside the
Just
KU
inside,
system,
okay.
everybody pay,
Yeah.
Including us.
That's good. Okay.
So QME decide this year only pass that 10% to us.
Okay.
We say that's what we're gonna say the cost increase in QMEA, little bit, like less than 2%, right? 7.5% around it. Those actually come from that 10% of the 27% increase. Not exactly 26 point. Do you remember 26.7 and 26.8? It's nearly 27%.
Okay.
I gave a long answer for this simple basis. Sorry.
Any other? Okay. Next is safety.
Mine's not nearly as interesting as KYMEA. There were no OSHA recordables, but we did have one minor vehicle accident that resulted in just minor damage to a van, no injuries.
Next is water distribution.
As he's coming up, I'll go ahead and introduce Danny Herring. He's our assistant water superintendent. We let Brian go on vacation once every 10 years. And this was his
year?
This was his year. So
How long did he get to
we let
go?
Danny- Do what?
How long does he get to go?
We let him have a week.
A week, okay.
Yeah, a week.
Yeah.
Good evening, Board, Mr. Chairman. The water distribution monthly report is on pages 33 through 35. We installed 7 new services. We had 1 main break and 1 outage. If there's any questions, happy to answer.
Thank you. Water treatment?
Good evening, Board. The water treatment report is on page 37. For the month of May this year, we treated 226.5 million gallons of water. That averaged out to about 7.3 million. As you can see on the chart, we actually treated a little bit more water this May than we did last May, so we are definitely starting to see a little pickup in the amount of water that we're treating right now. May was an unusual month. We had our max day pumpage of 9.9, and we had our minimum day pumpage for the year of 4.9. The minimum was due to drawing down the reservoir to prepare that for all of the construction work. So that was a little odd to see both of those events happen in the same month. River flow averaged about 4,800 cubic feet per second at 3.1 billion gallons per day. I haven't done one of these reports in so long I can't talk. The unusual thing with the weather was that we had rain at the beginning of the month, rain at the end of the month. We had 21 days of no rain. And so if you notice the river in May, it got green like it normally does in July and August. So we had some unusually low flow conditions for the month of May and moving into June. That's rather odd for spring. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is April and May was the 2 months that we chose to send out our water quality report for 2020. So the water quality report went out either in an envelope if you get a paper copy, or it was attached to your electronic bill. So we did send that out to everyone.
Anything you want to highlight in that report?
No, it's basically just a short summary of some of the water quality reporting. It is a very standard report. Nothing really varies or changes from year to year.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Billings?
Good evening, Board. Update on the reservoir. Last Thursday, we had our first monthly progress meeting. We've received our first pay estimate. We're working through reviewing that and getting them set up as a vendor, getting their payment arranged. Demolition of the south basin is complete as much as it can be at this point. Excavation down to the rock has been ongoing. The mechanical rock removal or hole ramming has begun. As if you drive up there, you can see that quite a bit of spoil has been removed. Upcoming work will be continued excavation and installation of piping underneath the proposed tank, getting ready for CROM. The estimated start date for CROM is still July 7th. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So on schedule-wise, we're still on schedule for?
I heard the contractor say he's confident he'll be ready for CROM.
Mm-hmm. Anybody have a question? Dawn, you're continuing communications with the Tanglewood people and letting them know what's going on?
Right.
Okay. David, all the pricing, the bidding and everything that we did, given all the price fluctuations, are all those prices in the estimate, are those pretty much locked in?
They're locked in.
Okay.
No, well, with a project of this magnitude, we're gonna have some change orders.
Right, but as far as the kind of things like Vin had talked about
Yes.
before, like where things could just go, I mean, those prices, we've pretty much got locked in on bids, right?
Yes, we're under contract for those prices.
Okay.
What about the potential for materials, going back to the vent issues?
We're not really seeing problems with pipe, fittings. They're 120 days now, I think. We're gonna put an order in for some fittings as soon as we can. So I don't see that there's a problem. The contractor's already got some fittings sitting on site, so they've got theirs either partially ordered or already ordered, and some of them already there, and we need to order some as well.
Next is the knock.
Right, good evening. The Network Operations Center, you have that summary, I believe on page 38 or 39 of your board report. The first item is just basically a table pulled from our software system. It just reflects the calls, not all the calls we took or not everything we did for the month, but just calls we've entered and the types of calls. You'll see just below that for the month of May, we handled 2,661 phone calls. And for the locate department below that, for May, it looks like we did 711 locates, down just a bit from the 2 months prior. Maybe a rainy month or a slow month. I checked just earlier today, and it looks like this month we've done 341, so June's probably going to be on track to be similar to April or May type month. So with just those numbers, it looks like we've done over 6,500 locates already this year. So it never slows down.
Could I ask you just a question? How many people do you get? I mean, I'm not asking for a firm number, but
Yeah.
people that ignore the 811, do something, and then get themselves in trouble. Is there any idea about how many people are?
No, but it certainly happens. There's lots of people that ignore 811. But the fortunate thing is they don't all get on the radar. In other words, they don't do something to necessitate a response, maybe from public safety or a utility company or whatever. But yeah, it certainly happens.
Yeah.
811 has spent a tremendous amount of money nationwide and in Kentucky doing public education and outreach. So there's a big push. Kentucky is one of the only states in the nation that doesn't have a mandatory 811, in the law. There's just, I guess it's a lobby. Some people want it and some groups don't. But that would be a good thing.
But it's a steep fine, isn't it, if you hit?
Yeah, I mean, it comes, and then the utility companies can recoup money too. If you don't call and you strike, then the burden's on you. So, it's just, it's free insurance, so to speak. Call 811 and basically you're covered.
Yeah, the Frankfort Plant Board has been a member of 811 for quite a number of years, so even though the law changed, we already were involved with that. So
that's right.
That's one of the things here. We do get strikes from people who don't call, and they get bills, and those kind of things happen. But there has been a number of years of, I guess you would call somewhat education in the area where people are used to being able to call 811, and we come out and do it. So that might help a little. I don't know. But we do see work orders fairly routinely where people dig into things they shouldn't. And I don't know of any deaths, but certainly you hit electric, it's very easy to get killed. So that's what I would definitely tell everyone is, 811 is there for a reason, and it doesn't cost the customer anything to call one place for those locations.
It helps. We're fortunate enough that our Keith Metter, our locator, is actually on the board of directors of Kentucky Underground and Kentucky 811, so that keeps us in the loop as well. So we like to be at the front of that game. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Darren?
I can answer for you.
Okay. Thanks, Darren.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Media Service, Ms. Lindsay.
Hello. just wanted to give just a little update on how we're preparing to promote the EBB program. Like Hans mentioned, we're already on the FCC page as a provider in Kentucky, and for each of those, there's a link to the website. So once we're up and running, we'll have a banner on our homepage of our website that will go directly. If you click on it, then it'll go directly to a page that we're putting together that's specifically about EBB at FPB. So again, we've put together an FAQ. We've worked with customer service and IT to make sure that we're getting across all of the information that needs to be out there, and Hans has looked things over. And then in addition to that, the FCC has provided like a resource toolkit of different visuals that we can use, infographics and information like that. We are working on a 30-second TV spot that will be run cross-channel once we get that done. And then also we'll be working with the radio station to do an audio PSA so that it's out there and people know. And obviously we'll have it on our website and social media. So we feel like we're kind of reaching all, and of course I'll do a press release and it'll go to the newspaper and it'll be on our website. So we feel like we're hitting it from all angles once we get it out there. And again, I'm in a lot of groups that meet, and it's something that we'll be talking about with groups as well. So is there any questions about that?
So are
Or
we
suggestions?
utilizing the school boards, school districts, since I thought we said that a lot of those students would be eligible? Maybe going to the schools, to the counselors, to the principals?
It probably is a good idea. I had a brief conversation with one of the superintendent. You know, we definitely can reach out with the superintendents and the school board. If there's a way they can reach out to the parents or the customer.
I mean, they have a vested interest based on our agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that's something that we're looking at. So if there's no more questions on that, I want to talk about our FPB Youth Scholarship recipients that we awarded this year. Frankfort High School was the only school that actually had an awards day, and so I had the pleasure of going and presenting that award. And just for anybody who's watching, just a little background about our scholarship program. Every year we work with the Rotary Club and go through applications. They have scholarships that they give, and then we have our scholarships that we give, and we work through those applications to find the students who are, particularly for the Frankfort Plant Board, we're looking for students who are interested in career and technical education or any kind of maybe future career here at the Frankfort Plant Board. So those applications are judged on their academics, their financial need, community service, and extracurricular activities, and then they also have to write an essay. So there's a scoring rubric that you use, and then you judge the essay based on its content. And we had record number of applicants this year, so it was very good. We were so excited to have so many that it took us an extra day to go through all the applications than we usually do. So I'm very happy to present. Again, I went to Frankfort High and awarded Frankfort High's recipient was Miss Leah Rome, and she will be attending the University of Louisville, and she will be studying marketing. Yay! Yeah. And then
The Harvard on the river, you know.
Oh yeah.
What they say.
From Western Hills High School, it was Olivia Onadu, and she will be attending Northern Kentucky University and studying environmental science. And then from Franklin County High School, it was Clay Bowman, and he will be studying computer software engineering, and he's attending the J.B. Speed School of Engineering at the University of Louisville. So we're very proud of all of the class of 2021, but particularly for the recipients of our FPB Youth Scholarship, and we wish them the best of luck, and then hope they come back here and work in Frankfort. Any questions?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that finishes the department reports. Next item, item 2, is first item is consider approval of the minutes for the May 18th, 2021 board meeting. Everybody should have the minutes there in front of them. Do we have any corrections or changes? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes adopted. Item number 2.2, consider approval of the minutes for the June 2nd, 2021 special board meeting. You got the minutes in front of you. Any corrections, changes? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes adopted. Item 3, this should take just a minute and a half. This is the financial report and the consideration of the fiscal year budget for us that we've reviewed in work session. And then some resolutions we have to do to deal with the debt items that are included in this budget. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Denton on the financials for May.
Thank you, Mr. Cubine. So looking at your board packet, we have financials for the period and month end May 31st, 2021, pages 59 through 131. As you can see, our revenue is a little bit higher than expected, and we have contained costs, so our budget is in line with expectations. You can tell it's very close to where we were a year ago. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about May, but we are on track as we thought we would be.
So in terms of the year, in terms of revenue, we got 1 month left. We're already 2 weeks in that. So in terms of revenue and expenditures, you feel we're coming about where you're thinking at this point?
I do. I mean, we're $1 million above revenue estimates, and we're doing much better budget to actual on expenditures. Looking at our net contribution for the 10 months of this year versus 10 months of last year, we're very much on track. So I think we're going to be better than expected through 12 months.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions on the financials? So we need I need a motion on item 3.1 for the financials for the month ending May 31st, 2021.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials adopted. Next is the budget for fiscal year 21-22. David, you want to discuss, this is basically the budget that we had in front of us with items that have come up either since then, changes or any clarifications?
Yes, sir. So I guess we released the budget to the board a month ago in May, and we've had time to review it. We had a special work session on the budget June 2nd, and we've had a lot of back and forth over the month. So I have passed out to the board a proposed changes summary. So this is the baseline in front of you, the budget packet, and then we have some changes that were discussed in our June 2nd meeting that are net effect or net change from the baseline. So I'd be happy to go over any of these changes, but just take it, Mr. Cubine, and how you'd like to handle this.
Okay, does everybody have the sheet in front that David passed out? Items 1 through 8. Basically, does anybody have any questions about any of those? And these don't change any of the policy or any of the changes that were incorporated in that budget, right? They're just adjustments to expenditures, right?
Yes, sir. So line 1 shows you the net contribution in the baseline budget. And then we make changes to that. For example, number 2 was a recommendation Ms. Hale had on adding $20,000 for LED lights and shower heads and diffusers. I know we reached out to Bluegrass Community Action, and they are willing to handle that program for us if we would like to go down that path.
Yeah, you said, Vint, that they seem very receptive to.
Yes, they seem receptive to working through a contractual agreement on how it would handle. I would expect that we'll have that for you at the next board meeting next month.
Okay.
I'll just hit these just to make sure we're all clear. Looking at number 3, fuel, we have budgeted $326,000 for the year company-wide. And looking at current purchasing and prices, we'd like to increase that to $365,000. So that's a net increase of $39,000 for the year. Number 4, we had a discussion about community solar consulting, and we have a $40,000 amount there that I know Vint would be happy to go in depth on that estimate, but that is the increase we think for looking into community solar.
This was the item that, Catherine, you were interested in?
Yes.
So this is the amount, we don't know what it will, this is the amount that we've kind of, I don't want to say the word plug, bad budget term, but basically this is the amount we've put in to basically cover up to. We really don't know what this is going to cost us, but this is kind of to cover whatever we have to spend.
This is the idea to cover financial planning and evaluation, appropriate sizing for the needs we might have, preliminary engineering design, again, not really going into the nuts and bolts, but very preliminary interconnection stuff we might need to do, possible rough idea of site evaluations and community solar subscription model, what it may look like for us depending on those other things I talked about. So it goes more into depth, helps us establish, we kind of need to find out what we're going to do, what we would be offering really before we ask folks, are you interested in it? So that would kind of dovetail into that. So about 40K is what we believe that would be.
Okay. And Catherine, you're good with?
Yeah, the preliminary engineering design, is that in-house or is that hiring a
All that stuff I
engineer?
read would be the consultant would do those things.
Okay.
We're talking about what we would call more a one-line diagram. It's not the nuts and bolts of figuring out all the pieces, just a very high-level design based on the other pieces we're looking at, the cost and how we would do it and what we think interest would be, those kind of things.
And staff's still either looking at or will be looking at to see if there's any free assistance through any of the governmental programs.
Right. Right. I think we're kind of putting in here, this would be the worst case. Any way we can find to knock those down or find other pieces, we would. But if we didn't, again, that's what our estimate would be that we think would be worst case.
Great.
On the evaluation part.
Next one is the clean water tank.
Yes,
Number
sir. I
5.
believe Mr. Mason had made a suggestion on the champagne tank. Look at getting that cleaned. It's concrete, and that's an estimate on the cleaning of that.
Well, John's got a power washer though.
That would be a conflict of interest.
Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, is there any input that we can have from staff on whether that's needed, that kind of thing?
And I totally agree with that on that, because I just made a suggestion. I'm not really looking to spend $80,000 to do a cleaning of.
So what this would be is to go out, get some proposals and bring it back and then see if we want to proceed?
I think if I'm correct, Danny, you may want to come up, or David, if you know more of the details, but I think we went out and got a rough idea of what the cost would be.
So this is the cost, or a kind of rough estimate of what the cost would actually be for this
To
project.
clean it, yes, sir.
Well,
David?
for my opinion, you can take that out. I'm not trying to
I don't know if
spend
it's
$80,000.
was that something we were checking on?
We've been talking about doing it for a couple of years, just to be quite honest with you.
Really?
It needs to be done. It's not the most pleasing thing to look at. I think that's a high cost. I think if we wait into the fall and we bid this, we'll get better numbers than that.
And there's no, Frank, tell what you're saying, Steve, there's no big hurry
No.
to do this. Whatever time you can do it, and we'd still get another shot at it if you actually took formal bids.
Yes.
And then at that point, we can make a no or
Yes.
go if
That
we
would
want
be
to go
my
that route.
suggestion, because we've been talking about doing it for a couple of years anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other thing to think about. That's an excellent point you made. You'll get another shot at it. The community solar stuff, the energy efficiency, which will be there next month. Those kind of things. You'll all see those actual contracting pieces, whether you wanted to proceed at that time.
So we've
or
put
not.
this money in here as a placeholder, but there's
Sure.
still the opportunity not to spend it.
Right.
If it comes in this high or whatever. Is that okay with everyone? To leave it there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Whatever.
See, Steve, you just say something.
I'll close my mouth on it, because I wouldn't spend $80,000 for that.
Brinks Armor Car?
This is just something between budget session and today. We just know that that's a cost that's going to go up, and just thought we'd go ahead and put it in there.
Okay.
So, and then number 7, this is actually a decrease to the budget. We had a temporary electric engineering position that we don't believe is going to be needed, so that's a positive. And then the other thing is number 10. This is on the capital side, looking at increasing our current $60,000 budget for EV charger up to $100,000. So that's a $40,000 increase.
And I might just comment on this. This is a discussion, a very, very, very preliminary discussion we had with the city, that they might be interested, rather than going with what we had talked about, which was 3 chargers, to go with 1 rapid charge.
Yes.
And pick the most opportune place for tourism, economic development, everything. And this is still kind of, again, a placeholder.
Mm-hmm.
We'll still have discussion with the city and decide whether we have a 1 rapid charger or 3 regulars and where that ends up. But the rapid chargers, this VIN, apparently that's the price for the engineering, installation, everything.
Yes, the 100,000 would be what we believe would be absolute worst case, depending on if the location chosen was very difficult to get to with electricity or something. Probably, if we can have lots of conversations with the city and come to an agreement on a place that would be easier to serve, we might be able to knock 20,000 or more off that cost. It just depends on how they feel.
And the rapid charger would basically allow what, Gary, for someone to charge up to 80% in about 40 minutes?
Yes. But the unit itself is a lot more expensive than the level 2 charge. So I'm not seeing our cost, just the equipment alone can be 62.
It was over 60,000.
And I think what the idea was, then, if we had the rapid charger, that puts you on the map, the national map, as to having chargers, which means people might stop in Frankfort and eat, spend money, do whatever.
Yeah, for the people who have electric vehicle, is more realistically stop by, use the DC charge, which is a rapid charge, than the regular level 2, because regular level 2 may take 8-10 hours charge. This can be 40 minutes.
That's a long time to spend in the drive-through line, you know? Okay. Is there any other changes or anything anybody was interested in, wants to see considered, put in, take out, that this doesn't cover?
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
No, go ahead, Ken.
I didn't know if we wanted to mention that it's possible we might be coming back in
Yes.
July when we get more information. We're going to, or have already asked our salary consultant to add more companies to compare salaries with. So it's possible that might cause us to consider some adjustments.
That could either be in July or August. And then at that point, we'll have that, and it may affect some other position. We're not sure, but we'll have that data, and then we can consider it at the time. Everything we talked about before is in this budget. This would be if there's any other positions that need, our series.
And those don't mean, those require budget amendments for
Yes.
the current year's budget we're in. So, I don't know if we want to address that proactively or just know that it's going to be coming up.
I think one of the reasons to bring it up was some staff had asked some questions about it and let them know that
Yeah.
that review is being done.
Absolutely.
And
So what's in this budget as it relates to pay? 'Cause I'm not sure.
Mr. Snyder?
Well, I'm just gonna reiterate, I don't know if this needs to be in a form of a motion or not. I've talked a little bit with Vin and David and talked with the chairman a little bit before the meeting. In terms of pay increases, what this budget has is there are 3 potential pay increases employees can get. They will only get one of these 3 pay increases. One is for the folks that are below the midpoint, they'll get the 2% July 1st and then the 2% January 1st to get them up to the midpoint. The other alternative would be there are some reclassifications that will take effect in this budget July 1st. And generally those are going to be folks that are going to be reclassed up, and that's generally going to be about a 5%. I think the HR folks were telling us. And then, so folks will either get one of those 2, or if they do not get those, then all the other remaining employees will get the cost of living. And I think we set that in this budget at 2%.
Or what the city.
Or what the
gets.
city did, but at least 2%. But if the city goes above 2%, we'd match the city.
And the reclasses are electric, telecom, and elimination of the 2 pay grades, and the reclasses
At the lower end,
yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
And as far as the cost of living, we always have the option, if the CPI stays up, to come back in
Revisit
6
it.
months and
We can always
revisit.
do budget amendments. Yeah.
And based on the the Bureau of Labor Statistics 1st of June, it's not slowing down.
Yeah.
I mean, and the items it's hitting fuel, groceries, housing.
So can we say that we would possibly reconsider that in January?
I mean, we can reconsider it anytime, but by November, we'll know what Social Security's gonna do on their COLA. And right now, it's tracking that the Social Security COLA is probably gonna be 4.2, 4.5, somewhere in there.
Well, my only question, I'm okay with the pay raise with one exception. I'm uncomfortable with getting, there's a good percentage of managers that are below midpoint that will receive a 2 and 2. And I just don't see where that's in my case justified, in my sense justifiable. But beyond that, I'm fine with the rest of the raise.
Do you want any further discussion, or is that
Well,
just want to note it, or how do you want to?
If it's not acted on, I know what my vote will be.
Yeah.
But it'll be a symbolic vote.
Okay.
But I just think that too many managers, top managers, are getting the 2 and 2, and where I don't think it's justified.
Yeah.
Pregnant pause.
Okay.
Go on.
Any further discussion, any other changes, notations that would need to be brought up?
John, the only other thing that we talked about, it's not specifically addressed, it's not really a money item, but the KMUA, the Utility Association, that the budget has language that even though the money's budgeted, it's not just an ordinary expense, it's paid pro forma, that back in June 2022, we'll reevaluate that, and that payment of that budget item will require an affirmative vote of the board. So make sure that everybody, so we're on record that was part of what we had in the budget. And that you have asked me, and I've agreed that I'm actually going to be attending the KMUA annual meeting this year. So kind of get a sense of how that organization works and continue evaluation of it.
Yeah, you and Gary will be going down to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to report the board, I submit a name list which is going to serve many over 6 of KMUA subcommittee.
Good.
I forward that to you, and pretty much every committee we're going to have our employee going to contribute our time involved their process.
Catherine?
And I'm glad to hear that, because they that was one of our concerns, and apparently all along we could have staff going to those committees, and it's not just for the legislative session purposes, but just for continual collaboration with colleagues across the state. You never know what important information you're going to hear, so I appreciate staff taking time to go to those subcommittee meetings. And just back to Member Mason's comment, an interesting statistic that just came out was the percentage of people willing to actually quit their jobs, to change jobs, go somewhere else is back up. So we need to keep that in mind, and also the CPI, the cost of living, is high, and so I think we need to keep that in mind.
Well, my point, and I agree, that's certainly a valid point, but Frankfort is a place that has a supply of professionals. I just noted that an individual that worked at K-State, which is a bad name now, but K-State, is now coming back, who lived in Louisville, is now back in Frankfort working at the council. So Frankfort is a place where professionals will come. So I don't think there's a scarcity of professional talent. And I'm not saying that I want anyone to go. I think everyone here does a great job. I just don't think that when you look at below midpoint and raises, because that's the greatest raise given here is the 2 and 2, that the top management should be the ones getting that beyond rather than the lower people, the lower run people.
I don't think that superintendents or supervisors are necessarily top management, and I think we have a compensation policy, we expect our employees to follow our policies. And so I think it's important that the board either follow the policy or change the policy so we can follow it.
Well, I don't think any board can tie a future board to a policy or to an action. The salary surveys are done common. They're done in a lot of organizations, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily followed to the T every year. You know, it's just a guide. It's just another tool to see where you may be. But it doesn't say that you have to follow, and it doesn't say that it applies in extraordinary times. And you look around Frankfort, and most people aren't getting 4% pay raises annually. And I'm looking at the constituents that are around here, the ratepayers, they're not getting the 4% pay raise and 4% plus pay raises every year, not even 1 year. So I have to take that into consideration, again, with the fact that Frankfort has professionals that can fill jobs here.
Good evening, Board Chair. If I may, I would like to address Mr. Mason. I understand, and we have been conservative in giving raises, but the purpose of the 2 and 2 is to move employees that are below the midpoint to the midpoint within 5 to 7 years. And we just still, even with the 2 and 2, have not been able to do that. And so to, I guess, maybe designate managers or department heads, and I'm an individual, I have just been promoted, I am below the midpoint. And so you're going to make it where our underlings get closer to us by removing us from the 2 and 2. And we work hard, and like you said,
well, let me respond to that, because the pay raises that are being given here are percentage based. So they can never, if you're getting one, and I don't want to personalize it. If a higher person, salary person, gets the same percentage raise as a lower person, that person never catches them. And in fact, you distance yourself even more. So if we were talking about same raise, higher percentages for a lower class position, then maybe so. But you aren't. The other thing is that your policy says that you're going to do another salary survey sometime. It's due. That's going to inevitably say that pay raises went up. So the midpoint moved, and you still now may find yourself below the midpoint. Therefore, there's another 2 and 2 raise coming. One never catches the other in the, and that's a great thing for employees. I mean, employees, and I understand that. I like that too, although it never got to participate really in it. We were subject to it, but it was never implemented for us. But so you never catch. You know, as long as you're having the salary surveys done in increments of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, you never catch the midpoint. Or if you catch it, it moves, and then you are subject to another extraordinary raise because of it. So I understand that point, but that's just how that's the reality of how both those things work.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I don't think it makes sense to have a compensation policy where you're hiring people below market value and then expecting them to take 5 to 7 years to get to market value, which during that 5 to 7 years, the market value, of course, has gone up. So I question the policy which hires people at below market value to begin with. And then whether you're a manager, a supervisor, whatever, what it says to me is that you can go someplace else and make more money. And I think, what value do we place on good employee morale? You know, I think the plant board, when I had the meeting with Miss DuPont Ewing, one of the things that she said to me was, it seems like the plant board is a happy place to work. And I took that as a real compliment, that our employees basically are happy here. And I think sticking with the policy that we have hired them under, when you go to work somewhere, you ask, so when can I expect a raise? And with our current policy, we can tell them, the 2+2. If we're not going to live up to that, then I think that we owe that to our employees to make a policy that we are going to live up to.
Thank you.
Did you have any other comments, Michelle?
Just one more.
Yeah, sure.
And I was just going to say, you are correct. I mean, it does continue to move, and that's the way it's designed, because with our salary structure, that moves. We request that moves every other year, because that's the people we're recruiting in. And that's how we got behind, where now we are eliminating grade 100 and 101, because we weren't moving the salary structure. We were conservative in moving it. And so then, like you mentioned, the employees, the 2 and 2. Well, we want to continue to move them as well to try to get them to the midpoint of their grade. So it is several different parts that are moving, and for a good reason, in my opinion. So, but that's all.
I might just add, and I think, Catherine, Dawn, and Steve, I think at some point, not tonight in this budget, but I think the whole discussion about the 2 and 2, everything probably needs to be another discussion, because I think there is something kind of inherent in what Dawn said and Steve said, is that we have a midpoint, and we've kind of said the midpoint is where we want to get people to. So the question is, do we need a midpoint and at some date, and it would be costly. Do we not need a midpoint but to have a higher starting and a shorter pay band? But we hired people in at a higher level, closer to quote what we're calling midpoint, and then you really wouldn't need a midpoint. But that means moving through a bunch of steps of the series. But that's kind of what we're fighting ourselves against, is we're saying we're hiring you here, but we really want you to be here. But as Dawn says, it's going to take you 5 to 7 years, and then that triggers all kinds of other things going on in terms of, like Steve said, if everybody gets 2, the person above, in the same pay grade above the midpoint, 2% is worth more in real dollars to them than it is an entry just because 2% on a higher salary. So the dollar ranges they're not really catching up against that too. So if we gave a higher CPI COLA on July 1st to everybody below midpoint, that would actually make the 2 and 2 even harder to achieve, right?
If you gave everyone the cost of living that was below midpoint?
No, like if everybody above midpoint, say got with what the cost of living is, if everybody above midpoint got 4.5,
Correct.
then people getting 2 and 2, in essence, would be net down for the year 0.5.
Correct.
They would be making more money, but they wouldn't have caught up.
And
So-
we're not there yet at the 4, but to your point, I think we would need to look at the 2 and 2 at that point and maybe make an additional adjustment. And I do want to point out, because I don't know if Mr. Mason has this information, because I got it at a separate meeting, which was, we did do salary survey in April. And I don't know if that had gotten emailed to everybody recently or not. Because I knew we had been past due, and it had gotten done, which is what some of these salary adjustments, or all of them, were based on this data. I just didn't know if everybody had gotten a copy of that. So you might want to send that out.
I can.
Sure, we can do that.
Yes.
Actually, when the board gave us instruction looking for a certain part of the business, like a telecommunication and electrical, and so in the March, I told Michelle, I said, ask consultant, look into every position, just in case we miss someone far away the market, then we should consider it. So that's the consultant did a study. As you mentioned a little earlier, we did ask a consultant again to use the company we did use comparison last time, which is before 19, and he will help us again to prepare. It also try to say there are any things we didn't consider we should. Then that report will come back to you, I think either July or most likely August. But one thing I do want to update you, as you know, we talked about employment pay rents, right? So we did had a study since 2018 now. Consultant proposed we're going to, I guess we already asked the board, and also it's in this budget, we're going to change the pay rents 3%.
Yes, the salary structure, yes.
Salary structure. But that's the change.
That's the impact of eliminate grades 100, 101.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
that's part of it.
So it's
yes.
in the whole pay rents, but that's the only change we had. I want you to know that. And every time if we want to change that, we need to ask board approve too. There's no management can do any of that. I just want to update that.
And the other thing, I guess, make sure we clarify, David or Michelle can ask, Gary's compensation, do we address Gary's compensation when his evaluation comes up in July, or is he included now to get the same as employees above midpoint?
He is currently not included.
I think it's contract based,
Yes.
so it's,
So that'd be a separate action in July when we do his evaluation?
Correct.
correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
John,
Yeah.
I went some real quick, and Steve, you said something that I don't know if I take issue with, might be too strong of a word. You said that a previous board can't tie a future board's hands, and I don't necessarily think the 2-and-2 policy ties our hands. We can change that policy anytime we want to.
Exactly.
So I mean, if we decide we want to do it now, honestly, I think we're this close to the budget. I think we set up the entire budget based on this. If we want to come back and revisit it at a later time, I'm more than happy to have that discussion with you. So,
And that's, the only reason I said, the statement I said is because staff, and even Don has just said it, that we are tied to do that in a sense. So I said, and that's why my statement was, current board cannot tie a future board.
Right.
You're right, but that's the action would have to be taken.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
too many people have said that to me here
I
over
understand.
the last
I understand.
years.
I understand.
That's
I understand.
why I said the statement.
And I welcome the discussion of what is a better way to get and retain the best employees we possibly can. Now, you do say something. Yeah, Frankfort is a place for professional people, but we have jobs here that aren't the traditional state government professional people type jobs that
And
that we're looking for.
I think we've addressed some of those, but the particular point that I've made here were not specialized jobs.
Right.
In the sense that you're technical, scientific,
Right.
engineer type
Okay.
jobs. I was talking about some jobs that, well,
Financial administrative stuff.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any other changes, any other corrections, additions, deletions we want to make in the budget? If not, then we're on item 3.2. And do we have a motion to approve the FY 21-22 budget as presented to us tonight with the modifications Mr. Denton has presented to us on this handout? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, the budget's approved. And the next two items, item 3.3, 3.4, are basically items that are contained in the budget we just approved, but require separate board actions. And that's to pay off these debts that we're going to be spending money on, as David outlined in the work session, but he needs a separate resolution on each of those. And we can ask David to go into as much detail as you all want, or we can act on them. What's the board's pleasure? The first one is to prepay assistance agreement F0804 and F13021 between Frankfort Electric Water Plant Board and KIA.
Mr. Chair, I think it would be informational for the public to go into it a little bit.
Okay, Mr. Denton?
Sure, absolutely. So the plant board, typically when we go out and issue debt, it is for large infrastructure projects, and that is the case with these two loans. Years ago, FPB entered into agreement with KIA to get assistance. It was assistance agreement or a loan for multiple large water treatment infrastructure projects. So what we are asking with this budget approval and in this plan is to go ahead and to prepay these amounts. This would save the plant board interest expense by going ahead and taking care of these internally, using electric cash reserves, loaning that to water. The water division would then pay that back to electric over 15 years at 1%. So this will help keep the revenue requirements for the water division down. Also allow us to invest as much as we can back into the infrastructure. So I'd be glad to answer any more questions, but we view this as a very positive thing and look forward
And
to
the electric ratepayers will be getting their money back.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. And this is very clear in our budget. You can look at the funding summary of electric and water and also the income statements and see the interest expense and the interest income going back and forth between electric and water.
And the combination of this action and the next one we're going to consider will take our net debt level down from what, in the range of about 5% to about 1%?
Yes, sir, as far as the average, or I should say the annual debt service.
Right.
So on page 14 of our budget that was just approved, you can see that this is reflected in the amount that we would pay off. This is the KIA loan payable for the MCC and the OSG, line 20, and then line 25, the water treatment plant generator loan. So this would bring, this is a $5.6 million prepay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved. Next one, item 3.
Date that we could retire the whole issuance. So we are asking the board to give us permission to move forward with this process. It would save over the term of this remaining issuance over $3.5 million in interest income, I should say interest expense that we would be saving. We would plow that right back into the company in infrastructure and to minimize the amount of potential rate adjustments we might have going forward. So,
I mean, I think that's the strongest point, is it reduces the net of operating, the amount of operating income going to debt service, which
Right.
means it's available for normal operating costs, and then we'll have revenue coming back in. So basically, this helps us maintain current rate structures or minimal rate impacts for several years to come.
Yes,
With the
sir.
exception that we know we have to deal with water next year.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Next item, item 4, public comment. Ms. Poe, do we have anybody signed up? Okay. No one signed up for number 4. Website comments. Ms. Poe?
We had 2, which are both in your board package. The first one is FPB's participation in the federal program, which is the
Right.
FPB program, so that one's already been addressed. And then the other one was a question for low-cost internet for seniors.
Mhm.
Look at both of them in the board package.
I had a question on the second one with, for seniors. I don't think what you send us identifies the person, but could somebody get in contact with that person and explain to them the EBB? Because that, so many senior citizens are on fixed incomes and lower income, to let them know specifically that we can't necessarily start a program for seniors, but this particular federal program could do the same thing for them, at least in the short term.
Well, I think, didn't you say, Hans, or someone said that the FCC is actually considering the possibility of asking for permanent funding for EBB?
Yes, sir. I don't know if it's the FCC, but there's some industry groups that are kind of pushing, and there's at least one FCC commissioner. I've read some of the statements that they've made in these orders that's sort of a drive. So that's correct.
So it could be a long-term program for it. Okay. Next item, item 6.1. Kim Phillips, consider approval of the workers' compensation insurance renewal. You're all sneaky. I keep looking for people to come this way, but you're all coming around through the.
That caught me, surprised me, but we are asking that the board allow us to renew our workers' comp insurance with Kimi, Kentucky Employers Mutual Insurance. There is a 2.7% increase, which is $2,500 higher than last year due to our experience mod increased a little bit and our payroll increased. So Kimi has given us good service, and we would like to continue with them.
And Kimi is kind of a quasi-state agency. I guess it is a quasi-state agency, isn't it? So, and last year they gave us a big old rebate check, right?
They've given us dividends on several years, and then they provide a lot of support and recognize our safety program. They've done a good job, and I think our employees have been pleased with the service that they provide.
The way they pay their claims. Okay. Any questions of Kim?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the first part of the rationale for the raise.
It's the experience modification rating. It's NCCI puts out a rating, and we are rated based on other industries similar to ours. A 1.0 rating is considered average for your industry. Ours, what previously was 0.57, which our agent last year said that was the second best mod rating that he'd ever seen. So it's hard to keep going, get better than what we were last year. So we did move to 0.62, which is still well below the industry average on and it's based on a 3-year claim losses. They compare the expected losses against your actual losses and come up with a rating that way.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Kim? Not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Approved? Thanks,
Thank
Kim.
you very much.
Item 6.2, consider amending tariff and applicable policies and procedures to conform to House Bill 312's new open records requirement. This basically is just changing our policy to comply with state law.
Yes, sir. Correct. Correct.
And did the AG come out with his proposed standard form?
No, sir. Haven't seen the form yet, but we'll get it as soon as it comes out. And you can use any type of form. You can't require a particular type of form, but we'll use that one or get the information from
Does this law become effective middle of July, or?
July 1, I believe.
Because it's 90 days after sine die.
Right, I don't know what this had on it, but the regular effective date for this session is June 29th. But I don't know if this particular bill probably had a July 1st effective date on it, but don't quote me on that.
So if we don't have the AG draft form proposed, and as I understand it, the proposed form from the AG is not mandatory, it's suggested or?
That's my understanding,
That
yes, sir.
that covers you if you use that. That's an acceptable form to use. I think that's what
Yes,
clarifies.
sir.
So if the AG has not put that out by June 29th or July 1st,
Yeah.
are we going to put a draft form for people to use on our site, or?
Yes, sir. We could do that. Usually it's pretty informal process. I know with Mr. Horn, for example, Austin, he'll email Kathy or myself and say, I need X, Y, and Z, and we'll round up the materials and send it on. But we'll use I think some of the information in this new form deals with one of the changes was, are you a resident of Kentucky and things like that, so you can ask questions about those things. But we've not received any comments, I don't believe. So we'll ask for what we can ask for, and
hope the AG puts out his
and hope they put out a standardized form. But usually, in practice, I'll make sure I understand what the requester's looking for, and then look at the exceptions, and then get the materials together as quick as we can. So.
And if you could let the board know, like on July 1st, is there a draft form on our
Yes, sir.
website, or just what the status of it is?
Absolutely, I'll keep tabs on it and let everybody know as soon as I find out. So.
Okay. Do any further discussions on this item? Okay. If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Next is item 6.3. Consider award of bid invitation number 1717, annual price contract for the purchase of wood poles to Cape Electrical Supply. Jennifer Heller.
Good evening. Each year we send out several bids for annual price contracts on the items that you keep in inventory and use the most. This bid for the wood poles, we sent out to 9 vendors. We got 5 responses. After reviewing the bids, the apparent low bidder did not meet specifications, so we recommend that it's awarded to Cape Electrical. They're the best bid that did meet the specifications. The wood pole contract was renewed last year. Due to COVID, there were a couple of these annual price contracts that we didn't rebid last year at this time. So we are actually still working on the 2019 pricing. There is an increase. The bulk of the increase, the wood poles don't have as long of a lead time problem, but the treatment that's used on the poles that the most popular treatment that we've used, most people use, is going away. The only manufacturer in North America is shutting down by the end of the year. So we had to rebid with different specs using a different treatment. So there is an increase, some just because of overall for the industry, but a lot of it is just the treatment difference.
Okay. And this one's got, what, a 45% increase?
Right.
So it's kind of what Vint was
Which
talking
some
about
of
earlier.
that, is the difference in treatment that we have to switch to, and pricing. We're on the 2019 pricing that we got to renew last year. So we're really 2 years behind on some of our increase. We got to hold off for a year.
Any questions, Jennifer?
Question.
Steve?
Go ahead, Steve. After you, John. It's all yours.
So when does the current contract expire?
It would expire June 30th.
So I guess it's not practical to over-order now on the current contract to minimize the cost on the new contract?
We can place orders at any time and they'll honor it based on when we place the order. So I mean, that's, something we could discuss with staff and see what we have on hand right now and how much, we have room for.
How much money do you still have left in the budget?
Steve
Right.
brought up a good point, and from a cash standpoint, this amount of money wouldn't cause I mean, from a cash standpoint, if in theory, we could order what we need in 21, 22 now at this price and spend this 55,000 this year and not have to spend it next year.
Can we store them? That's the question.
Yeah, we can place bigger orders. It just is gonna depend on how much room we have to store them. I don't know if we could get the
How much
whole
can we-
year, but we could get a little ahead.
We're kind of starting to run into that with all of our equipment.
Yeah.
Can we order more of it now? And we're already looking for additional storage space for some of our AMI meters because we just simply don't have any more space available. So we'll try to do what we can with it, but we have a very limited, space.
On something like this, I mean, do we have any options on any alternative space on any property we have to store?
We
I'm
can
just
look
throwing
and
this out in
see,
general. I'm
but-
not asking for a specific answer, but you know what I mean.
We'd need a forklift there and other type things. We're looking at what we can do with it. There's usually quite a bit more to it than just buying it and getting it delivered there.
But this kind of thing, it's hard for somebody to come in and steal from you in just a regular F-150, you know?
Never underestimate the ability for someone with a chainsaw. Yeah, I mean, you would have to honestly, it would have to be a secure lot because people will chainsaws and everything.
Yeah.
No.
They will. They will.
John, I have
Yeah,
a question.
sure.
Jennifer, this is a question I brought up last week, last month when we had a bid in front of us. You mentioned the apparent low bidder did not meet specifications. What specifically?
It was the treatment difference. They bid the old treatment, but
Okay.
they can only guarantee that pricing until they run out of that type.
Okay.
So we wouldn't.
Then you'd be
We would have to
picking a poke,
rebid,
so,
and it,
okay.
the other bidders bid the new treatment, and
So when apples and
they
oranges,
wouldn't. We wouldn't have to rebid, and they'll have
All right.
availability.
Good, thank you.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. However you want to sort that out, Kathy. Although, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Next one, Jennifer, is award of invitation number 1719, annual price contract for ductile iron pipe, valves, ductile iron fittings and tapping sleeves to Core and Main, and hydrants to Ferguson Waterworks.
This is the same type of bid, and for the water department, most of the inventory that they use. This helps, doing the annual contract helps with the lead times. Obviously, we don't have to bid each order and be held up for that bid to come through and then be awarded. On this one, we also ask for pricing for the material that meets Buy America and Buy American requirements, because if we do have a project that's funded by that type of grant, we have that pricing already set also. But we award based on just the regular items because we use more of those. We sent this bid to 6 vendors and 3 responded. All of the recommendations are for the low bidder. There was an increase in all categories. We did renew last year for valves, tapping sleeves, and hydrants, so the same thing as the wood poles, we're kind of 2 years behind on that increase. The pipe and fittings were bid last year, so this is just a 1 year on that. The biggest increase on the fittings is kind of when David was talking about the reservoir, it's the availability on those. That they get those from other countries that are apparently seeing a big hit with COVID right now, and shutdowns and lockdowns, and so it's just getting that stuff, and that was their explanation for that much of an increase on the fittings.
Okay, any questions? Jennifer? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks,
you.
Jennifer. Item number 6.5, consider award of bid invitation number 1714, annual price contract for water treatment chemicals. Julie?
We have to get Julie to come up here and actually be able to pronounce these chemicals for us. So.
Oh. I don't know.
I'm glad you're here because I've tried before. It's bad.
I could have defaulted. Again, good evening. So staff prepares an annual bid for the water treatment chemicals. The bid includes estimated quantities and explains that orders could either exceed or fall short of the estimates. And the vendors also bid with the understanding that the bid's purpose is to hold the unit price throughout FPB's fiscal year. This bid received 20 responses. After reviewing each bid, staff recommends awarding to the lowest bidders meeting specifications, with the exception of the powdered activated carbon bid, which is based on quality testing. So we have 10 chemicals to award bids. Liquid ferric chloride to PVS Technologies at $259.85 per ton, with a decrease of 3.15% from last year. Liquid sodium hydroxide to Univar USA at 0.1199 cents per pound. That is also a decrease. This one was 2.5%. The polyaluminum chloride is to US Alco at 0.2150 cents per pound. That was an 8.1% increase. The powdered activated carbon is to Calgon Carbon at 92 cents per pound. That was a 12% increase. The hydrofluorosilicic acid is to Univar USA at 0.2297 cents per pound, a 4.55% increase. Anhydrous ammonia to Airgas at 0.99 cents per pound. That was a decrease of 0.6%. The potassium permanganate is going to Mineral and Chemical Resources. That is at $1.55 a pound. That was a 2.58% decrease. Sulfuric acid is to Chemical Resources at 0.18 cents per pound. That's a 60% increase. The zinc orthophosphate to Shannon Chemicals at 0.7 cents per pound. That's a 27.3% increase. The OSG sodium chloride, which is bulk salt, goes to Morton Salt at $236 a ton. That's a 1.46% increase. And our water softener salt is to Chemical Resources at 0.165 cents per pound at a decrease of 21%. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Julie? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a second? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion approved. Thanks, Julie. Item 6.6. Nichelle, consider amendments to the job classification and compensation plan regarding facilities locator job series.
Good evening again. Staff asked the board to consider approving the creation of Facilities Locator 1 and Facilities Locator 2 and a reclassification of the current Facilities Locator in the Network Operations Center to create a Facilities Locator job series. The Senior Facilities Locator position is a title change and reclassification of the current Facilities Locator position, which now includes supervisory duties. The increase for the locates due to projects such as the Tiger Grant, Frankfort Sewer Replacement Project, and several outside contractors projects is increasing the demand for locates. In 2020, 6,086 tickets were completed, marking electric, water, and cable totaling 18,258 utility locates. In addition, FPB is adding fiber to the homes, which is a fourth and more time-consuming line of service to locate. Creating a Facilities Locator job series will allow the department to hire a locator with experience and an entry-level locator for training. The Facilities Locator job series will also allow progression for skilled and experienced employees. Based on an evaluation of each job description, the recommended classification of Facilities Locator 1 is a grade 105. With a minimum starting pay of $36,200.37. The Facilities Locator 2 is 107 with a minimum starting pay of $40,934.16. The reclassified Senior Facilities Locator is a grade 110 with a minimum starting pay of $48,034.83. The proposed job descriptions, organizational chart, and list of authorized positions for the facilities locator 1, 2, and senior are included in the detailed pages for the board item. If approved, staff plans to post 2 new positions for internal and external candidates simultaneously. The reclassified position is currently filled and would not be posted. Staff has included these positions and reclassifications in the current budget. Are there any questions for?
So in the budget we just approved, this funding was all included, and this was in what we talked about in those various series, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any questions of Michelle? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Thank you.
Michelle, the next one, 6.7, consider amendments to the job classification and compensation plan, create video director producer 2 position.
Staff asked the board to consider approving the creation of the video director producer 2 position in Communications and Marketing Department. Creating the video director producer 2 will allow a progression for the entry-level producers. This position will serve as a backup to the community television coordinator position and have the same knowledge and skills to operate technical media equipment. In addition, this position will serve as a second in command in the field and be responsible for supervising the full and part-time video producers in absence of the production manager. Based on an evaluation of the job description, the recommended classification of video director producer 2 is a grade 107 with a minimum starting pay of $40,934.16. The proposed job description, organizational chart, and list of authorized position for the video director position producer 2 are included in the detailed pages for the board item. If approved, this position is a reclassification position which is currently filled and would not be posted. Staff has included the reclassification in the 21-22 budget. Are there any questions?
Seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Got one more, don't you?
Yes.
6.8. This is, I might add, this is the one, we've advertised this once, right?
We've advertised this twice.
Twice.
Yes, sir.
And this is another attempt, and you've gone in, re-examined it, and made some adjustments to what you think the market is to fill this. And this basically is your old job?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mason, this is an example where we are currently having difficulties hiring in. We did have applicants that were qualified but declined the position due to pay. So I feel like this is one of those examples where we do need to continue to move our salary structure in order to remain competitive to Kentucky State or the state or any other, local agencies that we're trying to recruit in this agency for. Okay. Staff asked the board to consider approving the reclassification of the Human Resource Specialist position and changing the job titles to Human Resource Generalist 1 and 2. Currently, the HR department has experienced difficulties hiring an HR specialist. Staff believes the recommended changes will assist in recruitment and the department's development. Restructuring the position to generalist roles will better enable the department to conduct cross-training and provide backup for critical HR function. The HR, or the Human Resource Generalist 1, will be a Tier 1 position and will be responsible for the department's routine tasks. The Human Resource Generalist 2 will perform regular routine HR duties and will serve as a backup in the absence of the HR director. In addition, the HR Generalist 2 position will require a human resource certification. Based on the evaluation of each job description, the recommended classification of an HR Generalist 1 is a grade 111, a minimum starting pay of $51,585.17. The HR Generalist 2 is a grade 112 with a minimum starting pay of $56,318.97. The proposed job description, organizational chart, and list of authorized positions for the HR positions are included in the detailed pages for this board item. If approved, staff will immediately post the HR generalist position internally and externally simultaneously to fill the current vacancy in the HR department. The current vacant HR position is included in the current budget. In addition, if approved, staff will reclassify the current field position and would not post. The reclassification is included in the 21-22 budget. Staff asked the board to move to reclassify the current HR specialist positions to HR generalist 1 and as a grade 111 and HR generalist 2 as a grade 112. Do you have any questions?
Seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Michelle. Next one. It wouldn't be a meeting without Harvey. Harvey, number 6.9, consider approving MAV TV renewal. Is that MAV TV?
MAV TV, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Staff recommends approval of the MAV TV renewal. This is a NCTC agreement with a term through April of 2025. The rates will remain flat throughout 2021, and year-over-year increases are just over 3% annually. These increases are anticipated, and no increases to the Sports Plus rate will be required. MAV TV is available on FPB's optional Sports Plus tier and is dedicated exclusively to motorsports. No additional carriage requirements or obligations are included in this agreement. It's been reviewed by the staff attorney and meets with his approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
Okay, any questions, discussions with Harvey? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Item 6.10, consider accepting the minutes of the March 23rd, 2021 Cable Advisory Committee meeting. Harvey?
The minutes are presented for your review on page 227.
Anything that we need to take action on, or?
No, sir, just for your acceptance. They've already been approved by the advisory committee, so they're just being accepted into the record.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank
Their minutes are accepted. Next one is, this was one that Catherine had brought up and we originally put on for this meeting, was to consider a resolution regarding solar in Kimi. And we've got several things going on with solar right now, and mentioned to Catherine, I think Gary had a chance to talk to her, and for maybe Gary to give us an update and maybe come back and revisit this maybe in July. So you want to kind of talk about what's going on, Gary, on several fronts there?
Yes, on the solar, actually, one thing, the Port Hume Interaction looking for a study for the community solar. The second part is KYMEA currently had agreement for the 54 megawatts of solar called Ashwood project in West Kentucky. The agreement already signed 2 years ago, I think, more than 2 years ago. And the project is follow the schedule. They suppose online next year, December of 2022, supposedly. There are a little bit of uncertainty there. I'm saying is the whole project itself, originally designed for 86 megawatts. Portion of the contract belongs to another municipal in Kentucky, and they decide to withdraw from that project. So the owner of the project can choose either stay only 54, scale size back from 86 to 54, only with KYMEA, or they could potentially to try to market another 32 to third party. There's a benefit to KYMEA if overall end of 86 project, the price will be lower for KYMEA compared to only if it's 54 megawatts. So that's still in the process. I can't speak for KYMEA, but I think there are potentially options available. KYMEA could potentially, depends on other party too, definitely, to expand it from 54 all the way to 86, if both party can agree.
Is it your impression that even if Kimi can't agree with Ashwood to purchase the additional megawatts, that there may be other potentials for Kimi to secure additional solar from other vendors elsewhere?
Currently, as you know, KYMEA also is a municipal.
Right.
They have to follow the procurement
Right.
policy. As I know, if KYMEA going to secure the additional solar, they might, I believe they have to go through the RP process in the future. But currently, KYMEA board didn't have a plan for them to secure the additional solar, but they could. I'm just saying it's only follow what happened in the past. Currently, they do not have. They have a RP process for their future resource. Additional solar is not a part of the plan, but doesn't mean they wouldn't down the road.
When you think the situation with Ashwood and the possibility of Kimi acquiring those additional 32 will be resolved one way or the other? 30 days, 90 days?
Oh, okay. I think if you look at a timeline, they are potentially can all the way to before early November. There are certain deadline, I guess, the owner of Ashwood, and they have to determine. So there's more time. Potentially, Ashwood can market their additional 32 to third party. Or they could choose come back to KYME and negotiate. But there's too many things uncertainty, particularly potentially KYME could potentially negotiate them. So it would be very hard for me to say that currently. Yes.
Any questions of Gary about what's?
There was not a. I had in my head that there was a March 31st date or a June, as to they had until so and so to market this. Has that been extended or?
It's being extended because the
uncertainty.
The other municipals suppose have a certain deadline to decide how they want to stay in the project or not.
I just want to make sure I remembered correctly.
Yes,
so
yes,
okay,
exactly. Yes.
Steve, you have any questions for Don, Catherine?
Yeah, we're on the progress. We'll definitely report you back for all the change potentially, what we can do, QME can do, all that.
And then I know both Don and Catherine are interested on the community solar. When do you see that RFP process rolling out in terms of just ballpark, not specific, just in general?
We could, as soon as possible, if that's what the board wants. I mean, we'll have to put the RFP together, which won't take very long. So, I mean, within a month or two, I think we could roll it on.
Okay, and then see what the interest is and what vendors are.
And I mean, the two are somewhat related, obviously, but the Kimi issue about the board considering establishing a goal, the next level goal, and it could be that we might consider actual, like a percentage of how much we're going to increase our renewable, or it could be an actual like 50 megabars of solar, like an actual unit goal. But that's kind of what the staff is going to help guide us based on some of these variables, like the Ashwood variable.
Certainly, I had many discussions with staff QMEA for let them know our board looking to those. I think everybody's looking for have a more renewable. Only the part is what's the limitation. For example, reliability, how far we can go. Currently, QME work on MISO for dynamic schedule, which should give us more room. Potentially, we can have accept more solar, more renewable in our portfolio. And the second part is I think is related to the cost too. So KBME have to constantly review it. You know, I mean, everybody wanted more. In my view, always as much we can have, as long as we don't have to negatively impact our rate.
Right.
But that's a very hard line to hold too. So it's really the board decision, or KBME board decision also look into that in the future. Say, you know, do we have a room? How much room we have? You know, including how much room we're willing to potentially impact a rate. So all these have to be considered. I want you to know that, you know, everybody look into that. I mean, potentially we hope definitely have more.
Well, and I think we need to remember too that when we start getting the energy from Ashwood, will be, well, I never remember numbers, 10 to 14% renewable, which is really huge. So, you know, that's something that this community can be proud of, regardless of what happens with community solar.
And from everything we know at this point, our hydro is pretty much topped out.
Yep.
And
Yes.
we really don't have a wind at all. So basically, anything is gonna have to be on the solar side, I guess.
Currently, Kentucky, that's the case. Until the better technology change, could we potentially change? And only some wind project available is in the MISO, Indiana, all that. But I kind of heard the price is not very good to me. Sounds like when you talk about 4 cents or $40. So, and so correct, you're right. Pretty much the renewable, the hydro is decided a long time ago, and there's nothing available, additional available to us. Yes.
Can I just ask a really stupid question while we're talking about hydro? It's probably not, and I think years ago it was thrown out there, and, you know, we have a dam and a river. What's the possibility of any electrical generation from our own dam and our own river?
I don't remember the details. It seemed like it was about 20 years ago that they had studied it, and it had something to do with the head, the amount of head, the distance between the waterfall was such a low, such a small amount that the generation was minimal, but I do not remember all the details of it.
Okay, I was just curious.
And that was a good question.
I was in Paducah. Paducah involved a few hydro projects, which is not a long time ago. This is the last 5-8 years, and in Ohio River, and end up those projects. There are a lot of uncertainty. I think there's 3 projects involved. One is considered successful, but they are still probably twice compared to the hydro. I mean the solar we talk about. Other 2 probably considered not very successful, but they are probably 3 to 5 times higher than the solar. But there's a certain benefit hydro because there's capacity. Just like our. You can dispatch them when you need it in the summertime or anytime. So potentially there could be more hydro, but hydro is involved, at least Ohio River, the project or the new project I heard in the West Coast, they did, have a long-term evaluation, long-term study, and the permit process, the renewal process. It takes multi-years. I'm not saying it's easy. It's probably pretty hard for the new permit for hydro project.
I saw one night it was on the news. Was it the Colorado River or I guess because of the drought out there, that they don't even know what, not only just on producing electricity, they're facing both drinking water and producing power.
Yes.
There's some real questions what's going to happen because literally. They're seeing parts of that lake, the shoreline they've never seen in recent history.
Yes, and the most hydro projects I know in the West Coast, they face particularly in the like Washington State and Oregon, when they went through the permit process, actually there's a big piece about all the species, the fish, the management. Those become very tough challenge to for those large type of projects. Yes.
Next item, I'm sorry.
No, I just said thank you.
Okay. Next item 6.12, which is, this actually came up just a matter of a few days ago. As you all remember, last year during the COVID, with really short notice, our staff did an incredible job helping out Franklin County Schools get students online. And now, and this, I think you referenced this a little earlier, Dawn, this is now, the superintendent of Franklin County Schools has an interest in us renewing the MOU that we're currently doing with Franklin County Schools to provide low-cost internet. And this also would play into the EBB, in that some of these people might be able to switch over. Is that correct?
Yes, I had a conversation with the superintendent. I don't have really sure firm things yet, but based on the brief conversation I had with him, he had an interest to renew this agreement. But I guess what we really ask the board is authorize us, if they like renew it, then I don't have to come back to, not wait another board meeting.
Same
then we can have a
conditions.
same term and condition, continue serve those currently already in the program.
And this is, right, I think Frankfort Independent has a different arrangement with a different provider, right?
Correct.
So this is, Gary's reached out. I don't think they're interested in anything. Franklin County, though, is interested in continuing. Is that correct?
County school interest in renew, yes.
So.
And how would this interface with the EBB program?
This program, as you the memo, actually is county school district paid this program. We give a heavy discount on this program, but they gonna pay this. For EBB, first we didn't get that work yet. The second is now will be individual customer, as I understand, they have to apply that approved by the federal program.
So it would be in the county school district's interest or the county's interest to refer people to the EBB program first.
Yes. There are two parts of EBB. We don't know how long EBB can last. And the second part is, this is the county school. They have a control. It's partnered with us. Correct. Yes.
And Catherine, what we talked about the last couple times, we talked about the whole free and reduced lunch. I don't think county does what Frankfort Independent does, where all of their students are in that system. So that may limit the number of county students that might be eligible. I'm not sure about that though.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But it should hit the ones that are getting the free.
Right. So certainly some of their students, but whether it's the whole school, like independent school.
I don't know.
For some reason, I thought it might be, but I don't know for sure.
But this definitely, this would save the county money because they wouldn't be paying us with their funds. They could use those funds for something else. And it would help us because the EBB program pays us at a better rate than what the county pays us, right? So it's a win-win.
For as long as it lasts.
That's for as long as it lasts. So, does anybody have any questions or any concerns with, basically what we're doing is we don't actually have an agreement in front of us as much as we're giving Gary the authority to let the superintendent of Franklin County Schools know that we want to continue the arrangement to work out a deal. And
so Franklin County Schools, if Franklin County Schools wants to make some changes,
back to this board some options for staff. It wouldn't apply to all staff, but wherever it might be appropriate and work out in terms of alternative work schedules, whether it be flex times, 4-day work weeks, whatever, it would have the potential of saving overtime, giving employees more options, and so forth. So Gary, you want to?
Yes. Actually, the first, I do want to explain to you, I'm sure you know that too. Our staff, which is the most our field service, like our line crews, telecommunication, water, they are already back 100% since 2020, June 1st. So we're already back norm in that perspective. And during the pandemic, our office, we didn't have a open directly to customer, but they can drive in, schedule time, then we can talk to them. So that's in the practice for a while. Actually, I gave Ask and Excel, send out an email to all employees. We are ready to open our lobby next Monday, and also call back to employee 100%. Also start 21st Monday. That's kind of timeline we look into it. We are definitely work on the telecom policy for the future to bring the board for next month, or certain other flexibility we could to have you consider that next board meeting.
And I think you all may have seen Gary sent out an email to us. He shared with us the memo that state personnel had written, and basically appointing authority, there's an appointing authority in each agency. And basically the commissioner, secretary of personnel has basically told every state agency they pretty much have the flexibility to develop work schedules going forward. And I think, John, you said the LRC is looking at some different options.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things coming out of COVID is for employers to kind of look at scheduling and options and what work can be done remotely, on site, and giving employees more options. So Gary will bring that back to us in July.
Yes.
To see what type of policy and give us a chance to look at it, ask questions, and see if we want to go with that. So I don't think there's nothing we have to take action on today, but just that's in the works. And if anybody has any comments, suggestions, let Gary know between now and then, and he can build that in.
And this is surveying staff?
Well, it'd be two things, I guess. It'd be surveying staff and then also looking what positions might fit that schedule. Like some positions might be good candidates for like a flex schedule. Some might be a good candidate for a 4-day week, and others might just be, no, you've got to be here during those core times, and we can't make allowance. So both staff interest and what might work for various job classes.
Yes, I just want to make clear that in the first, majority of our job not going to have those flexibility. We have the line crews, telecommunication, water. Most our employee really is working in the field. So I'm not sure. I just want to honestly be with you. I don't think we're going to have, flexibility for them kind of working from home. So the left is very limited. The professional office people, those will be evaluated job by job. I don't want to play speak for like a tough tone on that, but we will have to look into that. And also currently, it's up to you too. I kind of communicated with staff, we're looking for maybe 1 or 2 days per week potentially for the job really could work from home. So we always can change it in the future. That's kind of in my preliminary.
So just to make sure, Gary, I think we've kind of been talking about two different things.
Yeah.
What you just talked about was telecommuting, which is one thing. I think one of the things John talked about was kind of flexible schedules where people could start, sooner than the lead time and stuff like that. That might be more beneficial even to those folks that are out in the field. And when you come back to us with some policies, it's going to have both of those in, or you're going to examine both of those things to see how feasible both of those things are for us as an agency.
Definitely, we can look into that. Particularly our crews, can they have a certain flexible time? I don't know our history.
Or can people come in as early as 7 or come in as late as 9?
Yeah.
Yeah.
work
They
later,
are
get off
currently,
earlier.
They already started early, right?
Yeah, the crews already start at 7:15.
Yeah.
They stagger a little bit. One of the problems, for instance, with the crews is they go out as crews, and
Yeah, right.
so everybody has to basically start
the
at
same
the same
schedule,
time.
yeah.
But again, that's one particular group. There's all kinds of different
Right.
jobs, obviously here.
Okay.
So we'll look at all those.
Thanks.
Next one is number 8, informational item. Any old or new business anybody wants to bring up?
I just want to bring up one
Sure.
thing. As you all, this is informational. As you all know, I'm the representative to the Frankfort Franklin County Remove Invasive Plants Task Force, and I've been in communication with them. There are 2 members of that task force that would like to assess the plant board's properties for invasive species. And I've talked with Gary and Vent, and they're going to get some dates submitted to me that I can then submit to Vent, and to have our person meet with them to take them around to our properties to assess the invasive, if there are any invasive plants on our properties, and then we can learn what to do to correct that.
See, I knew she was the right person to be on that committee.
I'm glutton for punishment, what can I say?
Any other old or new business? Staff? Anything from any board member? Okay, if not, we don't get to go and spend some quality time with you
No, sir.
in closed session?
No, sir. I'm gonna go ride my bicycle like Mr. Mason.
I even wrote it down and was about to forget it. I wondered if, when Kathy is thinking about putting out the information of the EPB, if she could maybe touch base with like the Senior Citizen Center and specifically, you know, talk to seniors so they know, because a lot of seniors aren't on Facebook and some of the social media where people learn things. So if the Senior Citizen Center had some information, they might be able to help other seniors be able to.
I could just share that with Marshall, and she could
Yeah.
have it there.
Great. Thanks.
If there's no other business we need to do, I hate to ask, but do we have a motion to adjourn?
Go ahead, Steve. You.
Yes.
I'll make the
motion.
Second.
Anybody want to discuss adjournment? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all.